All right. Hello. Thanks everybody for stopping in. Really appreciate everybody who's chosen to spend their time and energy, brain power with us. And above all else, we hope everyone's staying safe right now. My name is Andrew Whipp, and I'm the lead creative and editor at Greenbuzz Agency. I'm also joined by my longtime friend and colleague, Todd Plotkin, founder and CEO of Greenbuzz Agency. How you doing, Todd?
I'm doing well. Looking forward to today's webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. So today's webinar is the third in our Greenbuzz Agency webinar series, which we created to connect our community with industry experts who can help us break down top-line strategy, best practices, and advice during these really tough times, these weird times. Today we'll be covering how Sotheby's and TripAdvisor moved the cultural sector online. So if you're interested in learning more about that and how that was pulled off, then you are in the right place. Here to walk us through that journey are two trailblazers in their respective fields. First, we have Mitra Amistoy. With a background in creative writing, Mitra has transformed Sotheby's marketing strategy to invest in story-driven original content. After almost 20 years at Sotheby's, Mitra now serves as the SVP and head of content and creative services, leading an award-winning global digital content strategy team. We're also joined by Susie Conley. Susie is the former director of video strategy and production for TripAdvisor, where she built TripAdvisor's in-house production division from scratch to scale. Leveraging a deep network of relationships and expertise, Susie's produced thousands of travel videos around the globe. So thank you both so much for sharing your time and your wisdom and your experiences with us today. We are really excited to kick this off with you guys. We have a number of webinars coming up, so keep an eye out. Next week, we have Brandon Aralfo, the head of PBS Digital Studios, on Thursday, May 28th. Mark your calendar, talking about content that powers growth during COVID-19. And then the following week, we'll have Carter Hansen, the VP of Content and Programming at VidCon, and Gregory Litley, VP of Social Strategy and Content at Elite Model World, who will be talking about virtual events and viral activations. So we hope to see you all there. That is enough from me. Let's jump right into it. Mitra, would you mind kicking us off?
Thanks, Andrew. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here and be with you all virtually, and I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about what Sotheby's has been doing during this, obviously everybody knows, unprecedented time. So we can just kind of move ahead into that. So I don't know how many of you are especially familiar with our business. Even after 20 years, most of my family still thinks I work in the real estate side. The auction business, though, is the kind of heart of the Sotheby's brand. And we were founded in 1744 as a rare book merchant. Business grew over many, many years. We have sale rooms now in New York, London, Hong Kong, Paris, and Milan, but offices all over the world, Los Angeles, California, in California, throughout Europe. We sell art and design, antiques, jewelry, watches, wine. We've started a spirits arm of our business. So more than 70 categories. About a year ago, we became the oldest company on the New York Stock Exchange when we celebrated our 275th anniversary. Later that year, we were acquired, however, and taken private. So we've been going through extraordinary change anyway, which has been compounded, of course, by the pandemic. I wanted to share with you this video that we produced at the time of our 275th anniversary that played at the stock exchange, because I think it will provide a really good backdrop for who we are and what we do, what we've been doing, and highlight the big difference in terms of what we're doing now.
Discover an object that has not been seen on the market for decades is a great privilege.
That sort of whoosh of adrenaline, being in front of great works of art.
It's our great pleasure to welcome you here for the unveiling of a masterpiece, live around the world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to those of you who are following the sale online.
And we start the bidding here at £1 million.
9 million, last chance.
14, $15 million.
36 million, £42,500,000.
Sold.
Brilliant Banksy moments.
Girl with balloon, ladies and gentlemen.
I just can encourage you to look at something again and see more or see it differently.
All great art is hated, and then it changes everything.
As an individual, you got to stand your ground and take risks. Be fearless.
I saw this painting and went, whoa, that's what art does.
The Paul Newman Daytona is the hottest watch right now.
This painting is incredibly rare. We don't know when we'll ever have a work like this again.
Art is an obsession with life.
So thank you for playing that, and thank you for watching. I wanted to play that for you primarily because I think it's such a great view into our world, but I think it establishes also how physical our world is. We have tried, the goal of all our marketing for so many years is to get people to come into the building, to get them to see things, to get them to try jewelry on, to create really special events for our top clients. And she says it, my colleague at the very beginning of the video says, there's nothing like standing in front of a great work of art. But here we are very quickly having to convey a different message in a sense. Not that we don't still believe that that's true, but we have to also make it possible for our clients to buy all of these things very confidently without necessarily seeing them in person anymore, at least for the time being. So I would say one other thing is sort of a backup, which is that in many aspects of our business, I would say the sort of middle range, not those multi-million dollar pictures, we've been moving to a more online format anyway. The number of people participating in our auctions increases every year. But those big marquee sales that really drive our revenue are really meant to be in-person experiences for our audience alike, people who might not even be participating. There are big brand moments. So when the pandemic started and we knew we had to shut down, I'm sure for all of us, it all happened very quickly. But unlike our competitors, and we have pretty much one primary competitor, we made the decision that we were going to keep the doors open as much as possible, metaphorically, of course, in that instead of just putting a pin in the season and saying, we'll come back in a couple of months, we decided that we were going to work with consigners to transition our live auctions to become online only auctions. To say that this is asking a lot of our audience or our clients is one thing, but it was also a big mental lift for our colleagues who are traditional, I would say, in their experience, in their view of what an auction is, what it needs to be. And I think that we've overcome so many preconceived notions about what our clients will do, what they need in order to participate. We've made a very dramatic move away from print in this time, which was already underway, but has been dramatically sped up. So just to speak to some of these numbers here on this page, some of this information, since March, Sotheby's has held 55 online-only auctions. Our competitors combined, 2 other auction houses have had 20. We've sold almost 5,000 lots in this time versus just about 2,000 at our competitor, and we've made about $108 million. The big learning here, though, the thing that's so exciting for us is the fact that through all of our digital marketing efforts, we have attracted 35% of our bidders are new to the company, which is really exciting because that's not always a given. So we feel that in this time, we've actually developed quite a unique insight into the state of the market, which appears to be resilient and vibrant. The images that I'm showing you here, this bracelet made $1.3 million. It's a Cartier Tutti Frutti bracelet from the 1920s. $1.3 million is the record for any jewel sold online. The Air Jordan that you see there, we just sold a pair of these. They're actually, worn by Michael Jordan. They made $506,000. The sculpture made over $1 million. So we just had our highest selling online sale ever at $13 million for Impressionist and modern art. So I think as we head back into what's looking to be a more normal auction calendar, our major sales that should have been happening now in May and June have been pushed back into June and July, plus many other online auctions. I think we're feeling pretty good about what our clients are capable of, what they want. We've been connected to them. And I think that this experience, even though it's been incredibly fast moving and demanding on the marketing side, has been really valuable and has done a lot in terms of shaping our company's attitude, I would say, and belief in what is possible when marketing is really how we do everything, which is what digital means, because the specialists have not been able to get out there and look at art or talk to their clients in person, which is a huge part of their job. So I would say that this period for us has been hugely, hugely transformative. There were other areas of the business that very quickly became an area of focus that were not necessarily something that marketing spent a lot of time on. Very early on, we immediately ramped up our promotion of our private sale business. So many of you may or may not know that we have auctions, of course, but we also do a robust business in private sales, which is basically just acting as a broker. One client has a painting, one client wants a painting, we broker the sale. We think, based on our level of transactions each year, that we're probably the largest dealer, one of the largest dealers of these private transactions, secondary in the secondary market. But private sales has always been, like its name, private, and we didn't talk about it. We didn't really promote anything on the website. If you wanted to find out what we had for sale, you had to call somebody. But we tried to lower the entry, the barriers to entry for private sales. So we completely overhauled the website for private sales, or the web page, I should say, making available, illustrating works that are available for sale in instances where the consigners are comfortable. There is a buy now function for works under a certain value. And there are a lot of product development, product work going on right now to improve our ability to do that kind of buy now work. But the private sale focus has been definitely a big, big deal. And there have been some significant sales in the last 2 months. And I think that the team itself, the team that runs private sales, was always a little reluctant about how much we needed to promote them. I think that they believe now, though, that it makes a lot of sense because they get a lot of inquiries. And for consigners who might not be aware that this is another way to sell, it's also been great. The gallery network, which is below the second image on the page, is a new initiative, brand new initiative, where we are partnering with several galleries in the country to help them in this time when they are not open for business, to promote some of their artists and the artwork that they're selling. So we've basically created a hub where collectors can view the works that are for sale from these other galleries, really reputable galleries with great artists, and buy them through Sotheby's.com. So that pretty much took off last week, and we're going to see how it goes, but I think everybody feels very good about that. They're, like I said, great artists with great galleries with great artists, and great works of art at a varying range of price points. The other thing that we're doing, because we know that in the lead up to our big sales at the end of June, and when I say big sales, I mean with the most high valued property, where our exhibitions will take place, we hope, according to state regulations in New York, we are creating virtual exhibitions online. So we've been investing in development work on that side, so that if for clients who aren't going to come to the exhibitions, for whatever reason, they don't feel comfortable or they're too far away, they can't travel to New York, they'll be able to navigate a virtual exhibition, which will be, they'll be able to click through to more information about the works of art that they're interested in. It will include video content, editorial content. It's going to be a very, very robust experience. And we're working on creating all of that support content right now for that. So in terms of content, we are marketing for all of this. I should say that content has been our focus for several years. It's absolutely the heart of our marketing strategy. And it's in the art world, it's at Sotheby's, it's a little bit of an embarrassment of riches. Everything we have for the most part has a great story, talking about, great works of art by the world's greatest artists and makers and interesting collectors. So you can't really ask for more to work with than what we've got at Sotheby's. But the content has really become more important than ever, and the business fully appreciates that now, I would say, because we have to get our clients, prospective buyers, as much information as possible in order for them to feel comfortable making high valued purchases online. They want art, they want the art history, they want extensive photography, they want video, they want to hear the specialists that they work with the most talking about the picture. They want to be able to dig in and really understand what they're buying. And so we've been producing a lot. I think we're going to probably pause and measure and make sure everything we're doing has been useful and adjust accordingly. A big exciting innovation this spring has been our new catalog experience, which was scheduled to launch this spring anyway, but has been fast-tracked a little bit and is a huge, huge help as we are in terms of where we are now with the virus. So the digital catalog at Sotheby's, the print catalog has been king for decades. It is the sort of be all end all. But now this digital catalog replicates the print experience, or the good parts of the print experience, I should say. There's large scale imagery. It's well designed. There are great pull quotes. It has editorialized the catalog online in a way that it wasn't before. It includes video content. It includes slideshows. It's a much more lavish, I would say, and just in-depth experience than our previous version of our online catalog. Previously, to be frank, the catalog felt a little bit, the digital catalog felt probably a little bit like utility. It didn't capture any of the magic of our world, but this catalog does. And that has been a huge benefit in terms of helping consigners feel comfortable about selling now. They want to make sure that their works are presented to best advantage so that they'll make the most money possible. Video has been a quick pivot to our specialists, sort of filming themselves at home, which I know a lot of brands, it's kind of all we can do right now, other than just editing with stills and graphics, things like that. But it's definitely been a more democratic approach. We are able to involve more of our colleagues around the world, and we're able to produce pretty quickly. We have a bunch of editors who work with us full-time. So this has not been as heavy a lift as maybe it could be in other places. But it's definitely not the same level of polish that we usually bring to our video content. But I think that it's been surprisingly effective, and everybody is excited about it. And I think because it's been much easier to produce this kind of video, the catalogs that I just spoke about will have a lot more video in them than we had even originally planned. And then, the bottom point, our ability to be agile, to be nimble, taking direction and moving with it very quickly on the marketing side is has always been true. Our business is actually, very reactive one. But I would say also that what we've learned in terms of our sales is that you don't need 6 months to plan an auction anymore. We can plan an auction of 10 wristwatches from Rolex in 3 days and get it up on the site and sell it, and 5 days later do another one. So it's not just changing how we market, it's changing what we sell, when we sell it. The calendar, the auction calendar has been sort of set in stone for years and years and years. Everybody knows when the sales in New York happen, when the sales in London happen, and all of that is changing. And it's actually quite exciting. And these are just a few examples of our specialists filming themselves at home, talking about jewelry and pictures and watches. They all fortunately live in nice places, so it hasn't been difficult. And this is the landing page I just wanted you to see for the contemporary art auction that just closed and did so spectacularly well, with prices over $1 million. And just to sort of sum up what I've been saying, our audience, what we've learned, our clients are sort of sale platform agnostic. They're happy to phone bid. They're clearly comfortable bidding online. I would say that what they do the least, honestly, is come into the sale room. And I think we know that without a doubt now. So this experience, however stressful, has also been somewhat confidence building, because we understand that our clients are out there and happy to participate online. Thorough marketing, compelling marketing, content that means something to them, helps them understand the works of art that they're interested in, is hugely important. So we're not going to let up on that. And in terms of a reduction in print and how many live auctions we bring back, I think that is really, these changes are permanent for us. And I don't think that we're going to go back to a world where suddenly, 200 of our 300 auctions each year are live. I think it will be quite the opposite. And, but because of the success we've had in the last few months, I think we feel good about it. So that is what's been happening at Sotheby's. I'm happy to answer any questions you have when we get to that portion of the presentation. In the meantime, I'm delighted to turn it over to Susie.
Thanks, Mitra. And thank you, Green Buzz, for having me. To echo Andrew, I hope everybody's staying well and safe and keeping sane, hopefully. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the travel sector and how travelers are exploring the world virtually and dreaming and planning for when travel does return, but also about TripAdvisor's role in how travel will recover and the support that local businesses desperately need right now in order to weather this crisis. You're probably already familiar with TripAdvisor as a brand. It's the largest travel website. It's loved by hundreds of millions of travelers all over the world. It's also a portfolio of travel brands, a couple dozen in media and e-commerce. And it's really well known for revolutionizing the travel industry when it started publishing UGC reviews, the customer reviews. Travel and tech in recent years, at least in my opinion, have been two very, very disruptive and democratizing forces on the planet. And then the novel coronavirus came along, another highly disruptive planetary thing, and really just showing everybody who's boss here. And it's striking to see what's happened to travel and the consequences of being without it. Suddenly we're all faced with some self-examination, I would say both personally and professionally, and for brands. It's a moment of introspection right now. And so when we compare to last year, TripAdvisor was responsible for driving $600 billion in revenue for travel and hospitality businesses. And this year, travel's been decimated, virtually nothing. And there's just no form of marketing that's going to compensate for that and get physical tours and hotels and flights booked right now. But on the bright side, we know that travel will come back. We are seeing it. We all believe that. You just can't put that genie back in its bottle. And actually, really surprisingly, it's already showing signs, little itty bitty baby signs. Even just 2 to 3 weeks ago, I don't think anybody was expecting to see signals this early. So there's definitely a pent up demand. And we expect it to be a slow trickle in terms of coming back and in phases. And it sounds like there's going to be permanent changes, which apparently epidemics do that to us. They change us. And with industry disruptions, generally, we learn, we gain new insights on our own nature and the nature of the situation. And when it comes to TripAdvisor's role in travel right now, what is it that really matters is the question. Well, 5 million hospitality businesses are facing their own existential moment right now. And this is where TripAdvisor's unique value comes into play. It's a hugely impactful online community of travelers and travel businesses. It's a place where humans are very generously helping out other humans who then pay it forward. And there's a constant giving back to the community. And that matters for all brands right now. It really to over-index on their own unique positioning and their own value that they bring to their audiences. When it comes to content and telling our brand stories right now more than ever, it's really important to ask, is this going to help things? Does this need to say, do people want to hear this? Is this the right time? And if not, it's just probably not the moment for that particular story. So I'll highlight a few of the campaigns that TripAdvisor sprung into action on that are really around prioritizing the community. So there's right off the bat, Trip launched a Hotels for Health initiative, which is such an easy thing that TripAdvisor is uniquely able to do. And that's connecting healthcare and government agencies with lodging providers who can supply rooms to healthcare workers during COVID-19. Another is being sure that the TripAdvisor content is a place where travelers can easily navigate to find the latest travel advisories, as they're going to continue to be fluid and changing, and it's going to make travel really complicated. And then highlighting here the Love Your Local campaign, the goal of which is to direct support to the travel industry and the businesses that make up the travel sector. And what this campaign is about is TripAdvisor is asking its travel community to highlight any of the small businesses that have brought you joy in the past or in the present. So whether that's a restaurant delivery service that you're just loving right now, or it's a hotel or a tour that you booked in the past, the community is being encouraged to write a review on TripAdvisor, which those reviews definitely have long-term value and impact on those businesses. Or to post a social media post or call out or photo or purchase a gift card. And these will trigger match for action donations from the TripAdvisor Foundation. And the foundation has committed to $1 million to support the World Central Kitchen and the restaurant workers community. And this is the kind of campaign that TripAdvisor does really well. It doesn't actually require much of a pivot other than just trying to do more with less, which I'm sure we're all feeling right now. In general, the most significant marketing pivot TripAdvisor had to make was putting all global photography and video production and all content production on an indefinite hold. So it's now about keeping things super, super small, super nimble, UGC very minimal, minimally licensed if that's needed. And then there's another pretty interesting pivot, which is within the experiences business. So for context, experiences has been a significant growth area for the last couple of years for TripAdvisor, as well as amongst competitors cropping up like Airbnb experiences or Klook or Get Your Guide, if you've heard of those. TripAdvisor acquired Viator, and together these brands now, they coexist as the world's largest online booking platform for tours, activities, and experiences. And with COVID-19, tour guides and these attraction operators have now started testing out live streams as their stopgap to try to sustain their businesses until tourism can recover. And it's sort of happening in a mad dash. They're creating brand new virtual travel and cultural experiences this way. And it turns out that these new digital versions they're carving out their own place. All the online travel agencies are now offering them. There's hundreds of them out there. The bookings and the reviews are coming in. In the case of TripAdvisor, there's no OTA margin being taken, so all profits go directly to the experience creator. And the long view on these is it's not going to replace travel, being there in person. And it's the same story here with art as it is with travel. There's so much value in being in person, and the memories that we're able to create and make for ourselves when we experience those physically, that's just not easily replicated in a digital setting. So I don't think anybody expects that they should replace it, but we all want out of this lockdown and to get back out there as soon as possible. So why are people booking these? Why is it plausible that they might be scratching the itch for travel? Well, travelers have a desire to explore, to be curious, to be outside of themselves for a moment. We desire novel situations in all degrees of those. And I say novel, I just realized not coronavirus novel, not that novel, but we're all on some sort of spectrum and tolerance for how out of control we're comfortable feeling. And I would say even the more rigid types, there's still a desire for some degree of novelty. So talking to strangers and maybe even some misadventures, it gives us a little dopamine stimulation, gets us thinking and improvising, boosts our brain's neuroplasticity, among other benefits. So the common denominators between physical and virtual experiences is that fostering of the engagement and the interactivity. So going beyond one-way entertainment like you would get from Netflix or from reading or following a recipe, and human connection. It's definitely something we're all craving right now and need more of. And then there's an unexpected pleasure that we get actually from the anticipation. So just having something fun on our calendar to look forward to. There's, research done into the motivations behind travel, and it shows that there's a lot of enjoyment that comes just from anticipating our trip coming up, and it's not all that uncommon for people to get more enjoyment from the anticipation than the actual trip sometimes. And just like the Love Your Local campaign, these virtual experiences are another way to support the tourism industry and these small businesses, and especially when it comes to experiences in restaurants, the owners are eager for some income just to get them through this crisis. Lindsay Nelson, TripAdvisor's chief experience and brand officer, put it quite poignantly. I think the local businesses and people who work at them hold the keys to the culture we all desire to feel a part of, both as locals and travelers. That deep connection to a sense of place, even if only for a long weekend, is in the hands and hearts of so many people who need support right now. Small actions like buying a gift card, ordering takeout, or leaving a review can make a difference. And today the world needs each other. So I've attended a couple of these myself actually, and it does give me hope for virtual engagement. It's being tested and experimented with as a whole new format. I'm curious to see how it will evolve from a best practices standpoint, as well as an experimental form of storytelling maybe. A few things that I've observed so far with the virtual travel experiences is how there's this initial transition moment where you have to kind of mentally depart from your space and enter into that virtual space, and then the experiences are definitely elevated when there's storytelling that's well thought out for the whole time. And then there's sound, which is, easily overlooked generally in filmmaking, but I would say the secret weapon. So with headphones on, there's this opportunity for almost an ASMR kind of quality, which can go a long way in deepening the feeling of being immersed. And so some of the examples of these virtual experiences might be, there's like a meditation with sheep in Scotland, and you get all the sounds of the farm, the birds chirping, and the atmosphere, and then the sheep and their noises, and it's soothing, and you're guided through this whole experience. Some of the other experiences are like cooking classes are really, really popular. A lot of them are kind of wellness things like doing yoga. But some people also are able to head out of their apartment and explore areas locally. So they're taking the camera with them and showing off parts of their neighborhood that they're able, various parts of the world have their own different lockdown situations, and that's going to keep opening up as well too. So there's, it's really running the gamut in terms of feeling like a traditional tour to being something kind of totally different, like kind of feeling like a book club or a performance. A lot of them are kind of interactive performances as well, or magic. I think there's like escape rooms. Another observation that I'm seeing is how video shooting and editing as a literacy is suddenly a critical skill for all of us, or at least a lot of us anyway. Here's a perfect example to me of a trend that existed pre-COVID-19, but has now been given a big shove forward, where video cameras and playback and editing software are presently in the hands of people, like on our phones or on small devices all over the globe from all income levels. We all have access to this, but we've learned that since having these tools, at least, it's not so simple as hitting record and just letting it run, right? Just hoping for the best. That turns out all right. Telling stories in the video medium is more complicated than that. And so I think, I think back to the intense excitement from brands early on with YouTube and the prospect of UGC, where, UGC was totally going to replace all professional filmmaking. And then, the pendulum swung and brands became disillusioned, realizing that 99% of UGC was completely worthless. But UGC itself has continued to grow and mature during this time, and a lot of people are learning this literacy. Video has a grammar of its own, and the Cliff Notes are circulating the internet as we speak, when previously the training was just reserved for professionals. So more and more people are teaching themselves, and they are learning it. And my guess is that with these skill sets skyrocketing, this just really furthers and escalates video's role in digital. So to recap a little on these scenarios happening within travel, it's a weird and rare moment we're having, but to be handed an opportunity to disrupt ourselves, whether that's professionally or personally or all of the above. We're reflecting on this and on what matters now and into the future. We're starting our roadmaps all over again, and we're supporting local food, local culture. We're learning more about how to wield video mediums. We're also reminding ourselves, I think, why authenticity matters in our digital spaces, because the digital it's kind of like a shadow of the physical, and it can be a bit more blurry between what's like real or a facade. And we want connection with each other that feels more real. And so, form follows function. So we don't need the formalities. We want realness. We want authenticity. And then creativity itself matters so much right now. Creative restraints are actually quite energizing, and it's really hard work to be truly innovative and original. For what it's worth, I think creative expression is fundamental to every society. And I don't think we have much of a choice on this one. This is just one gigantic experiment that's going to require a lot of cooperation and a lot of creativity. So much is changing week by week still, really. There's just so much more that we're going to learn. And it'll be really interesting to see what cultural remnants are left once we get to the other side of things, and, what will be the new definition of, quote, modern. And in the meantime, we'll be figuring it out. We'll be, trying to reach out closer to one another right now, economically and emotionally, but 6 feet apart. So that covers it for me.
Thank you both so much. I mean, from where I sit, it's amazing to hear that although there's been this tremendous amount of disruption in your industries and many other industries, it sounds like it's almost been a catalyst for you guys to evolve and to innovate. And it sounds like a lot of these new things that you're trying out, or that you had been trying out and that have now kind of sped up and are becoming something you're doing on an everyday basis, it sounds like those things will remain even after COVID-19. So I think that's kind of a fantastic silver lining to all this. Thank you guys both so much for sharing your strategy with us. And I think now is the perfect time to jump over to the Q&A. I will kick it over to Todd so he can ask you guys the first question.
Yeah. The question I'm going to ask actually comes from the Q&A section. It is from Andre, and it's for both of you. And I know, Susie, you covered this a bit in your presentation, but if you want to go into more depth, that would be great. The question is, how are you leveraging sonic branding, audio content, podcasts to reinforce what you're doing in the digital marketing realm?
It's Mitra. It's an interesting question. We have one podcast that we produce on a somewhat monthly basis, and its future is a little bit up in the air right now just because of some staffing changes. And that has not been a central part of our marketing ever. It's always on the table, but we are about to release a very short series of videos that is the audio of which is a phone call, recorded old school phone call, kind of taking advantage of this moment when people are on the phone more, or leaning into it, I guess is the right marketing expression. But that is, so it's sort of a short answer from me, which is it's not really, I guess, because art is so visual, we don't tend to do much with that is not visual, but podcasts they always come up. So it's probably something we'll be thinking about more this year.
Yeah, and I would echo that TripAdvisor has not started experimenting that as a content form yet, although a little bit with interviews, kind of, as you mentioned, Mitra, taking phone calls and pairing those with something really simple visually. But I'm seeing it a lot of places. And I've heard podcasts are actually underperforming right now. So I don't know if it's a good time to try to get in on podcasts, but I think it's just a good time to try anything. Definitely with the virtual experiences, sound is a wonderful complement to the visual. And I haven't seen any virtual experiences that are just audio ASMR only, but that would be a cool idea.
Yeah, Susie, I actually heard that as well in terms of podcasts being down, just with less people commuting on subways or their drive or whatever have you. Those commutes back and forth. It's a huge area of consumption of podcasts, and kind of down across the board, regardless of genre or length. But with that, Andrew, I'll kick it over to you for the next question.
Yeah. So for Mitra, what do you think a post-COVID Sotheby's looks like? You had mentioned some things that you guys are trying out right now. How many of those things do you think are going to survive? And what has COVID-19 meant for the Sotheby's brand?
A couple of things I was thinking about while Susie was gave her presentation, and which was, it sort of highlighted for me how unusual Sotheby's is because of our clientele. We've got a very, very wealthy clientele, and they are in certain ways less exposed, I would say, at a time like this, when so many other businesses are really fundamentally altered. It's different for us a little bit. Our business is altered. Our business is affected. Our budgets are smaller. There has been all of that difficulty, but it is different. And I want to acknowledge that. That said, I think that when we look back on this period, it really will have been when every change that we sort of knew we needed to make over the last 5 to maybe even 10 years in terms of reducing our print, not having auctions in the building that only a handful of people walk into, but we've just always done it. And because we need, these dealers are, so important. So we do a lot of things for a very small number of people. That's sort of been our, our way. And I think what we've learned so clearly, what's been cast into high relief for us during this time, is that so many of those things that we clung to, print catalogs and in-person exhibitions, just are not necessary in 2020. And not because people can't travel. It's because people don't necessarily need those things to buy art or to buy jewelry or wine or any of those things that we sell. They're comfortable doing it online. And that's probably not true for a painting that's $50 million. You want to see that painting. But for things that are, let's say under $1 million or under $1.5 million in our world, that is really our bread and butter property. And the majority of what we sell is in that range. it can happen online. And if we do it without printing, without mailing, we save a lot of money. And we can invest that money in more effective digital marketing. And I think that for us, it's just become so clear that we can stop doing everything and focus on what we know works. So that has been a very positive learning, I would say, from this.
Cool. And Mitra, just as a follow-up to that, before the pandemic, you're obviously making different styles and formats of video content. What is the most common form of video you were making? What can you describe to us what that looked like?
I would say that still our most common form of video would be an interview-led specialist with one of our experts talking about a particular work of art that we're selling. The difference would have been pre-pandemic that it would have been shot on 2 cameras against a seamless on FS7s, and it would have been lit out, and we'd have makeup, and it would be a production. And we would we would shoot the painting in the gallery, which would be another production because that's a whole other lighting kit and maybe even a different camera. And it was all very, very high end. And I think what we're recognizing now, and I personally feel maybe a little sad about this part because I love beautifully produced video, is that we don't necessarily need quite as much of that as we've done. I think that these videos that some of our specialists have filmed at home where we're cutting away to our photography, which is also, very good photography, is enough in a lot of places. And I do think though that will be a more temporary, parts of that will be a little more temporary. And as soon as we can get back into our buildings and have our crews come back in, we will resume, filming artwork more, not just relying on photography. I guess I could see a future where with video, we invest even more in it actually, because we're going to expect to see our clients maybe less. And it will just become such a standard part of how we present to work online. It's always been reserved for the most important things we sell, but I think that the lots or the property that gets presented with video, that number will increase.
Yeah, that makes sense. Switching over, Susie, in terms of who's out there right now creating content, whether it be a brand or influencer, what are you seeing? What content is standing out to you? Who do you think is doing a good job, particularly during COVID-19 and in the last 10 weeks or so, or just in general, who do you typically look at for inspiration?
Oh, so many. I'm really loving all the Instagram lives. I started trying to book them on my calendar when I was going to pop in on various concerts. I love all the music ones. And I think again, that kind of comes back to these are their own varieties of virtual experiences, so from the online travel agency perspective, that's the bookable kind where these operators are trying to replace their lost business. But there's all kinds of virtual tours that can be done that have existed before this, where it's like exploring a 360 space, or just checking out Machu Picchu, or these events. So I really love the Facebook Live stuff. I love watching Colin Malloy show up on my notifications that he's got something live going on, and I just pop right over, check him out. So I've been mostly on Instagram myself, really looking at niche channels.
I had a question about your guys' thoughts on something that I've been really fascinated by for quite some time, which is virtual reality and VR headsets and such. And I definitely can see avenues for both of your organizations to leverage it in a smart way, in a cool way. Have either of your organizations used VR or thought about using VR? Because I definitely think right now I was kind of waiting for something to happen to push VR over the edge to make it more mainstream and less niche. Do you guys think that this pandemic could be that? Have your organizations been looking into making virtual reality content?
A little bit on the TripAdvisor side. So we did launch a 360 video series just for YouTube, but it's so much better experienced with a headset. It really does feel immersive, and it has sound in all directions. So it's not the kind of, I think, virtual reality that it could be, where it's highly produced, especially with really artful sound design and storytelling, which was something that I'm with you. We have always been sort of recycling that idea in the back of our minds. Like, when are we going to make this happen? When is this not going to be, too niche? And when can we expect people to actually want to engage with it? Because it seems like it's still a relatively small audience of people who do participate and watch 360 videos, or even have headsets. But when they do engage, they engage very, very deeply and spend a lot of time. And so we see that in the engagement metrics too, right away when we publish them, is that there's a lot of time spent. But it's kind of, it doesn't have like huge broad appeal. So they had like a little burst of popularity, I feel like, in 2018, where like 360 videos were just popping up, and I don't think it's over as a fact. Like, I think there's something to be done there still, to get much more creative with the storytelling. I think travel's a really interesting vertical to explore virtual reality, and it's something that I really neglected. I think making travel content, and being in a travel company where we were marketing to people who generally wanted to be the travelers and book stuff and go out into the world, is that, of course, there's lots of people that are not capable of traveling, or maybe they're elderly, or for whatever reason, there's barriers to traveling. So they shouldn't be forgotten about. There's so much of the world to see, and the internet is a perfect portal for that. And so I don't think there's been enough really very, very cool armchair travel experiences for those people, which is significant, that there's people that just aren't going to have as much access to travel, that might want to see the world and feel it a little bit more. And over to you, Mitra.
Sure. Thanks. We actually did in 2018 an exhibition in our London galleries. We had several surrealist pictures, and we created a whole virtual reality experience where you could come into the gallery and put the headset on, and then sort of travel into the pictures, which are, kind of weird and very imaginary because they're surrealist. And it was really got us nice buzz, and it was considered a success altogether. And it comes up all the time. Should we do this? Should we do it? Should we send our clients headsets and create this thing? But I would say that it's probably not going to happen regularly for us. I think that for at the right moment, we will, but we could do it. It's, like I said, it comes up, but I don't think it feels like our clients are, they tend to be a little older. And even though I just said that we know they're online and we know they're comfortable, all of that, I think that it's just maybe a layer of complexity. If people can come back into our galleries, and when that happens, and we can do it in for a more public audience, as opposed to people who are really, really the buyers, I think that's where we would look to take advantage of that technology, maybe more than in a smaller way, if that makes sense. But I think right now we're looking to do more scalable things, video for more lots and that sort of thing, as opposed to these kind of, and forgive this term, but maybe something that's a little more gimmicky for us.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we are almost at the end. I have one super quick question for you, Susie. You just have about 30, 45 seconds. Best practices going into creating travel content. I hear people talk about travel content all the time and how they want to make it, and they do it themselves as a solo and pitches for TV shows. What should people know about travel content?
Yeah. Okay. So best practices for travel content, guerrilla style filmmaking is, to me, the name of the game. So all the gear should be in that vein. You don't want to be carrying around a big, heavy rig or setting up large crews. It's generally pretty nimble, even when you're shooting for TV, keeping the crew small. I mean, there could be a small-ish crew of like 3-4 people, and you can get great, that's how travel TV content can be that slim. But it's about like access to places and to natural like organic things happening in the scene. And so when you start halting everything and drawing a lot of attention, it really interrupts that. So that would be my key piece of advice, is that it's when we're calling new crew that we haven't worked with before and bringing them up to speed, and also assessing if they're right for the gig. We're really looking for people that have done event type work or have done like guerrilla style filmmaking, where they're willing to really go fast. Like they can rack focus super fast, and they can be nimble, and they don't need a ton of lens changes, so we're, or at least like we pack the gear so where that's the situation. There just isn't a lot of time to stop if you want to capture the real moment. And so, I mean, that kind of applies to a lot of documentary filmmaking in general. But it's really just, it's nimble filmmaking anyway. At TripAdvisor, a huge bulk of our content that we shot looked a lot like travel TV, with a host in front of the camera that would help guide the storyline and help lead us to where we were headed. But then like a single camera person, run and gun style, handheld, and really like you feel immersed, like you're in the scene with that kind of setup.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys spending your time with us. To everybody who joined, thanks for popping in. An enormous thank you to Mitra and Susie for sharing their time and their insights with us. Once again, we have a number of webinars coming up, so keep an eye out. Next week, we have Brandon Aralfo. He is the head of PBS Digital Studios, and that is on Thursday, May 28th, and he'll be talking about content that powers growth during COVID-19. So we hope to see you guys there, and thank you again so much for joining. Really appreciate it. We had a lot of fun today, and I will talk to you guys later.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.